Economic Improvement Corporation. And today is September the 15th, 2025. It's 4 o'clock and I'm calling the meeting to order. Our first order of business is an invocation, and Kent is going to give that for us.
Okay, pray with me, please. Heavenly Father, thanks for all the many blessings we have to be in this great city, state, and country. Thanks for what we see, the way we see your love and all the support we've received in our community from volunteers and donors across the state and really even worldwide. Guide the city staff and this body and helping to do what we can to continue the recovery and to do other good work in the community. Bless those in harm's way around the world that are out there protecting us. In your Son's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Our second item on the agenda is a Visitors Forum. And okay. Our third is the approval of minutes from our August 18th meeting. Does anyone have any changes that they would like to suggest for that?
Move for approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passes. Our fourth are our monthly reports. So as of today, we want Michael Ornis to tell us what is happening with our recovery efforts and the city's response.
Good afternoon, everybody. Hope you all are doing well. So this is similar to the conversation that we've had with the city council as far as the presentation goes, but I think some of the questions that I have for y'all or to discuss after are a little different, right? Because I would imagine that y'all have been thinking, how can the EIC help? And that was a question that Celeste and I talked about last week. I have no answers for that, so don't get any ideas. But let's just go over kind of what's been going on. These are just two shots of the same spot, Louise Hayes Park. I don't know what these trees are going to be nicknamed, but they will at some point get some kind of nickname. And this is just two different shots of the same, kind of the same stand of trees that are weird and strange and beautiful all at the same time. Those are the ones that remained, right? The praying trees, yeah, maybe. But these were marked with blue paint, as were thousands of other trees that were along the river inside the city limits that we said, we had arborists go out from all over. Can't thank them enough. There's actually too many people to thank for all the other agencies too, for all the things they were doing. But the debris contractors, when they looked at some of those trees, they said, "Are you sure you want these to stay?" And we were like, 100%. The arborists say yes, and we say yes, right? Because it will look like scraped earth, no matter what. And so the more we could keep, the better, right? But in that same vein, we have set aside some of those logs for the city's use at some point. I'm not sure what that will be. But we have those from both Louise Hayes Park and from Kerrville Shriner Park, kind of just the maintenance barn area there, kind of bigger logs. Why does it look like scraped earth? Because as of Sunday, I guess this would be Sunday's data, it's been just over 1.1 million cubic yards, almost 1.2 million, probably 1.2 million cubic yards of debris as of today, probably. It's usually about 30 to 40,000 yards collected every day. That'll taper at some point. If somebody has a crystal ball, they know if it's 1.5 cubic million yards or 2.5 million cubic yards. I don't know. Those are two numbers that were floated around. I think they're somewhere in between, probably. So we still have a significant amount of work to do. This is last week. This is photo we took from G Street Bridge, just looking east down the river trail. A lot of trees were taken out of there. That, as it widened out, all those trees that were on the rock bed, a lot of those went. They just didn't have, it was, I don't know, for whatever reason, the stabilization was different, and those ones came out. So for everybody that knows, when you drive down, you see clear across the river in ways that you couldn't before, you know. So those efforts continue.
Are we looking at where that little picnic area was, where the,
So that's the
Maybe-
trailhead for the G Street. So if you would to kind of keep panning left, that would be the
Oh,
pedestrian crossing bridge at G Street, right there. So that's the parking lot to get to there.
yeah, I noticed that picnic area was gone and the water fountain and all of that. Looked
Oh,
like
yeah.
it was cracked out.
Yeah, that and a whole bunch. Yeah, there's a couple of things that stayed, and you wonder how they stayed, and then there's things that just we'll never find them because they're just gone. But yeah, that dog fountain or the water fountain that has the feature for the animals was damaged, as well as a number of benches in that area. So TxDOT was here early, before TDEM was able to kind of acquire their contractors. But they were able to kind of move on and have stopped their operation because their contractors were there to make the roads passable, right? To get TxDOT highways going. And then the Department of Emergency Management came in, and they were kind of initially it was TxDOT's going to handle state roads and TDEM's going to handle county roads, city roads, kind of private roads with easements attached to them. Now these two contractors from TDEM are handling everything. If there's stuff that's placed on the right of way for the state, they'll come in and take it. It just doesn't make sense to have 3 different contractors going. TxDOT was getting down to about 1,000 cubic yards a day or less, which is a lot, except if you have 30 20 haul trucks, right? Then it's not a lot. So between those two contractors, they're over 1 million cubic yards. TxDOT had picked up about, and this is a month ago, not a month ago, 2 weeks ago, I guess, had picked up about 85,000 to 90,000 cubic yards. And so it's a lot. And that's vegetative debris, that's construction debris that goes straight to the landfill. The vegetative debris is being chipped up into kind of a first round of chip debris, which is pieces that are about 1 foot long to a little bit smaller. And then that stuff is transported out and heads down to San Antonio. So every one of these types of debris, whether it's household hazardous waste or white goods, which are recyclables, vegetative debris or construction debris, they all had to have a final disposition site per the TCEQ rules and regulations. And so all that chip debris is going to go down to a place that will further refine it and refine it and refine it over the next couple of years, basically, and get out all the metals, plastics, etc. Then they'll eventually turn that into a mulch product that they'll sell. The construction debris just goes straight to a landfill. And then most of the recycling goods are actually going to those 2 spots in town. So either Kerrville Recycling or Scrap Solutions, which is in Ingram. And it's been moving fast. There's 300 trucks plus that are operating on any given day. So you see those trucks everywhere you go. I was down at the debris site and they were turning. It was crazy to see how fast they were coming out. It was like once every 5 minutes a truck was leaving, and then another one coming. And
But the logistics to really coordinate, where do you go next, and where somebody's.
Yeah.
But it's a heck of a job just to coordinate all that.
I think that was the hard part that took a while, right? Because they had to find the sites where they had to get the agreements from us and from the county and from the school districts, because there's 3 sites now. The first 2 sites were here and in Center Point, on a Centerpoint ISD piece of property. And then, who's going to take all this? Where's it going to go? Forever, we were debating on whether this debris could go into our landfill, but our permit, we don't account for this much debris. I'm not sure how much we account for annually, but 1.175 million cubic yards would probably be
Way beyond.
half at least. I don't know, if not even more. So a significant amount.
Well, I just mean that coordinating those 300 trucks
Right.
going around picking it all up.
Right.
Oh, the contractors by and large have been fantastic. You know, anytime there's been complaints, there's certainly things that they've done that have, you know, they're hit a sidewalk, clipped the side of a sign, things like that. They have been super responsive in mitigating and fixing those issues. We had an incident where UGRA's property, they took the debris out of UGRA's property that was like the wood sitting on the ground. Well, they thought they were driving on what was a road, which used to be Knapp Road. No longer a road, but through a comedy of errors, you know, that woody debris was taken out. So they were, I was like, if you pick the least good tenant to take wood off of, because they want to study it, they want to leave it. And luckily for us, that was debris that was placed there from the river, so it wasn't like debris that just came to their property and naturally that's where it was. It was physically placed there. So when they took it, they brought back that debris, and they brought back some seed as well to put down. And I think that's kind of the tenor of the conversation I want to take it to y'all is, you know, as a part of this debris pickup, there's the larger conversation and the longer term vision for policymakers like yourselves and staff here. Where do we go? What does it look like? I think all of you have probably been asked to sit on some committee for the long-term recovery. There are several, and each one has its own distinct function. I've been sitting on the riparian one and the flood warning system one. There's an economic development portion. Todd will get into what all those are. What does that look like for the future? Where's the funding going to come from? Where could it possibly come from, right? And so last week or the week before, when Celeste and I were talking, it was how can the EIC contribute? How can it help? And I don't know the answer, right? There are huge asks that will come before the feds and the state, several different state agencies. There will probably be requests from organizations, nonprofit organizations, to the Community Foundation for ways to help restore the riparian area. So I do imagine there will be stuff that will come your way. What the EIC would want to help with, that's, I think, the question that I want to pose to y'all. Not to put you on the spot. Obviously, this is a long-term recovery discussion. But just kind of talk through that. What are ways that EIC could help? Now, you all funded Guadalupe Park. We are working on using insurance funds to work on that project and donations. So some of the sports teams have talked about ways to help out. We're still trying to finalize what that donation looks like from them. But that's kind of the only asset that you all funded in this recent bond project that has really been affected in a way that it has to be totally replaced. Outside of that, golf course project is gone off mostly without a hitch. If you've had a chance to go out there, we'll talk about it in a minute, but theater project not affected by this, pool project not affected by this. And so from the bond dollar standpoint, really it's that one park. The other park down at KSP is fine, did well. And the last project is the Granger McDonald Park, which I'll get to it in the next update, but if there are additional projects that you want to look at, not to say like a specific project, just what type. And with that, I will shut up and turn it over to y'all.
Oh. So, I mean, we can just open this for discussion. It doesn't have to have, we don't have to come to any conclusions today, but let's talk a little bit about what things are you hearing about, or you may need to hear about more. You may need to see what's out there. But what are the kinds of things that you think that the EIC, who focuses on quality of life projects? What do you
I've been hearing about getting the river trail open.
For sure, the river trail and
And in fact, that was one thing I was wondering, is there something we could do to accelerate that?
maybe
No.
like a splash
Okay.
pad.
Okay. That settles that.
Would you like me to give a little update on the river trail?
Do it.
Yeah.
You can finish eating if you want
Sorry.
to. Let's, I want to.
Go ahead.
To say
I
something
think
too.
the splash pad is another asset, that's in Louise Hayes Park
Yeah.
that got devastated. The pavilions that were there, some of them got ruined too. All the exercise equipment that was out there that just been opened got ruined.
I think we did that.
Yeah,
EIC did that one too.
I'd
A
love
lot
to
of
see,
contributions, EIC certainly did. Yes.
yeah, I'd love to see us replace all that stuff so we can get that Louise Hayes Park back to
Yeah.
what it was. I mean, it's gonna take forever, but if we can help in some regard to get Louise Hayes Park back, that'd be great,
I also think it gives people an attitude boost to see that happen.
for sure.
Well, and let's don't forget about the one that we just got through funding and got washed away, and that's the,
That's what he's talking about, the Guadalupe Park.
okay, that's the park by the dam? Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Uh-huh, That sounds like it might get paid for by one of the sports teams.
That was gonna be my comment. I'm not so
So-
sure that we need to be talking about it too much until we see how things settle out.
Right.
There's gonna be a lot of contributions before we do this. The other is, I have real concern that we may have a tax drop, and it may affect our funding in the next 2 or 3 years. And I wanna be pretty cautious, from here forward.
We already are, we already have projects on the books that are,
Yep.
that we
Or
have committed
obligated
to.
Yeah.
So I think, I think that's a good thing, but, I think that if we can just continue to start talking about in what ways do we want to visibly be a part of the recovery. And, it's kind of where I stand too, is some of the ways of contributing to get Louise Hayes back to where it was, or
So-
it could be trees also. I mean, I'm.
Obviously, we're not doing the river trail, but I was standing on the pavilion and I was noticing all the trees gone, and it was a little upsetting. But then I started looking at it from a different light and thought, there is ways that there could be way more river access for people. I don't know if that's a project we could take on, and that's part of Louise Hayes Park.
Right.
Now, those trees are gone, but we could certainly create a place or better access or more access to the river below the dam that we couldn't have access before because all the trees were there. So I don't know if that's something we'd want to talk about in the future as well or not.
And this is pie in the sky, but this was part of a conversation, actually when I was on the Parks Board, is how to create some, a kayaking rapids. And we looked at that area just below Louise Hayes kind of park. So anyway, there might be some new things or something that's different, not just bringing it back to where it was, but it could be that there are some new possibilities that say,
It's only the only thing I can think of.
we can do something different with what we got and make it a different kind of gift. So, all right, you want to talk about
So the river trail. So we understand the urgency of re-establishing the river trail. So as search and rescue and as the debris teams make their way through those areas, we want to clear those areas. Once they're done, staff will go in and do kind of a final clean, and we can open up certain sections of the river trail.
Okay.
I think probably first, would be G Street to, well, Camp Meeting Creek, because the bridge is out at Camp Meeting Creek. It was found, ish. Yeah, right. It's not, it's mangled, and it's still in the water. But I don't think it didn't make it past, the end of Lake Kerrville, the end of KSP. So it's in there. But they said they found something that was 80 feet long and metal bridge, and so I was like, I'm 99% sure it's ours. And so that section right there, there's sections along,
You can't get from the trail that goes to Shriner to the river trail? Is that-
Shriner as well. So Shriner as well. That section you can get from Shriner to G Street. We're gonna have to block off the pedestrian crossing until we can repave it. So we have asked staff streets to tear out the busted up asphalt that's there, but we can't open it because it's a thick amount of asphalt. It's usually asphalt's kind of a 2-inch base or a 2-inch course. Of that pedestrian bridge is about a 6-inch course. So we can open it to go from G Street to Shriner on that side. We can open it from G Street to Camp Meeting Creek and then back to close to Louise Hayes Park. We'd have to close at Louise Hayes Park at this point. We'd have to shut it down before you get to Sidney Baker. We don't want anybody going to Tranquility Island right now. The river trail itself is in good condition. Search and rescue is not complete in all those areas.
Is that why you want it closed, because there's still an active?
So Louise Hayes Park for us, and you mentioned about redoing that which is there. The mayor had kind of tasked us with starting a conversation of reimagining Louise Hayes Park. As a function of what happened, a lot of those structures that were down there are in the floodplain. And I think what we want to see is if there's a way that we can shift Louise Hayes Park and Lehman Monroe in terms of the amenities outside of the floodplain, higher up on the hill, and then more of the courts kind of opportunities in the floodplain. Water can run through there a whole lot easier. And so that is a long process, right? It's a long process for that. Now, that's just the park. The river trail itself, there's a section underneath Sidney Baker Bridge that came out real hard, where the kayak rentals is at, but the left side of that area. So we have a significant amount of work to be done in Louise Hayes Park. A lot of the railing for any of the crossings at Francisco Limos, the crossings that lead to the library, all damaged. They're all in the process of getting quotes and getting those upgraded.
What was that traversing? Was that?
The traversing is fine. It's just the bridge that crosses.
Oh,
It's the handrails that account for that. There was a lot of subsidence on the side of the trails in certain sections. So specifically the section between Limos and the Dietert Center has a whole lot of, there's actually a part of the trail has kind of a half moon section in that area that had a bench dedicated. There's no base, no gravel below it. It's just kind of sitting there. And so we have to reestablish that before we can get the trail back open in those areas, because it's a 6-10 foot drop off in some areas. So we can do it in sections, and Parks has a plan. We have to wait on those debris folks to get out of the way. I suppose the question we could talk about next time is, what was the damage to the north side? And is it worthwhile to still continue to try and do the trail from downtown to G Street on the north side? Because you do have funds dedicated to that you haven't spent. You spent for engineering, but what is the value of putting that on that side? So
And was there substantial damage on the more north and south, or?
There were some sections that had, you know, erosion, especially up at Nimitz Lake. There was a whole, if you stand at Granger McDonald Park and you look across, you can see what looks like somebody just took a butter knife to
Yes.
the side. And there's not a whole lot of area, right? Because that hill is steep very fast. And so I don't know, there wasn't much of that downstream, but it's worth the conversation to see where y'all want to go, see where council wants to go. But this is good information for me to hear. From a standpoint of funding, we are looking at FEMA, we're looking at the General Land Office, Community Development Block Grant Disaster Relief Funding. We're looking at, oh my gosh, HUD funding. We're looking at USDA funding. We're looking at any number of things that we could tackle. I think the challenge, and I was talking to William Whitson, who is one of 2 consultants that KEDC has hired that kind of have a city management background. And they're kind of helping lead that long-term recovery, is trying to coalesce all that information into, here's an ask Senator Cruz or Senator Cornyn or, you know, Representative Roy, and literally see if we can get an act of Congress to help out our little town.
Yeah, I think that's why it's premature to say specifically what we want, but I think it's a good idea to be talking generally, you know, what we're hoping to be a part of, because you just don't know the funding, and you're not gonna know that for, I guess, for a while, for insurance.
But I heard the park, you know, so, and Beck makes a really good point. We don't know what the future holds and what the funding looks like.
Where the gaps are.
Yes, sir.
Does anybody else have anything else you want to add to that discussion? Okay, thank you, Michael. So are we back to talking about trees? Or did we even talk about that slide?
No, we're done.
Okay, okay. So here we are to 4B, the Kerrville Economic Development Corporation update, and Todd is going to give us that.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Board. We'll walk into some of those same discussions you were just having. I'll start with traditional business with the Curry DC and business retention and expansion. Kelly and I had a chance to visit with KMM and visit and tour their facilities. They are doing very well. Their contracts with Boeing are going very well with increased production throughout, I believe, the 4th quarter of 2026. They are in the midst of a hiring process, which is going very well, lots of applicants, and they're able to staff up. And for future expansion plans, they will keep Kelly and I in their loop so we can be a part of that growth plan and expansion plan to help them out and assist in any way that we can, whether it be workforce development or tooling or any type of expansion within the facility, the actual facility itself. So we had a really good meeting, very pleased and very happy with the way their response was with their employees to the flood too. They've helped out, allowed their employees to go volunteer and help, just a wonderful part of the community and the way that they stepped up to during the July 4th. Megacrete update, I got an update from Salvador, and they are currently still in their process of applying for their TCEQ permit with the state of Texas, of which is going as planned and on schedule. They're going to meet internally, meaning Megacrete and their internal staff are going to meet at the end of, I believe it is October, and we'll have a better idea as to where the process is going with the TCEQ for their public hearings that they'll have to have. I believe it's 2 public hearings prior to the issuance of that permit, so they'll keep us updated, and we'll keep you updated as to what we need to do to assist them with their public hearings. And so all of that, according to Salvador, is going well. The SBA and FEMA deadlines want to announce that were extended. They were originally set to expire September 4th, which was 60 days after the event, and we were able to get an extension to September the 28th. So please, as we are going through all our social media channels and any outlets, letting all of the businesses and individuals know that that SBA application process is still open, and we will be asking for an additional extension from the 28th as well when that deadline gets here. We'll take as long as we can get. The business community and the individuals are just now coming to realize that the SBA is a very viable option for their rebuild and their recovery. At first, at the middle of the disaster, you probably all heard no one wanted to go take out loans. Still don't want to take out loans. But as we move through this recovery process, the SBA is one of the best options we currently have available. It also then will allow our banking community, which is following this very closely and we're meeting with regularly, to do, again, some of the gap filling that you were mentioning a while ago, that they can come into the businesses and help them sustain their business model with additional funding, with traditional funding and lending, along with the SBA. SBA has made mention too that in certain circumstances they will take second lien through the disaster program that they have, so that the banks can come in and more applicable to take first lien positions on the funding. So please share with everyone that you can that application process, and encourage everyone, if you have not, at least please go get your name into the SBA loan application prior to the deadline. And again, we will continue to request extensions until we feel that everyone has had an opportunity to go fill out that SBA application. Within the last 30, 45 days, we have visited with 5 potential new business prospects in Kerrville as well, smaller businesses looking to come into Kerrville and open up their small businesses. Kelly and Teresa and myself have been having conversations with them, so we're encouraged the fact that we still have new businesses looking at coming into town and expanding our business base. To that, I'll move into long-term recovery. As you were discussing with Michael, the long-term recovery group has approximately 16 working groups that are currently active to some degree, and some that are still what we call getting stood up and becoming a part of the long-term recovery group. Last week, that 16 were pared down to a 9-member board of directors, and those board of directors met last week. We're in the initial stages of putting together and accepting and drafting our bylaws, and it's been a process when you look at 16 different working groups. As Michael says, he's in one. Beck, I know you're in 2, 3 of those, maybe 4 of those that he's working within. And I want to hit directly into the conversation about what can the EIC do, or what does the EIC want to do. Well, today we had a meeting with one of our working groups of the 16 is a funding coordination group. That's going to be led by Mark Hoffler, and the funding coordination group is going to be a group of multiple different funding sources that, as we determine through the long-term recovery group, which is citizens that are covering from, we've included western Kendall County all the way to far west, which including Comfort and Centerpoint and Kerrville and Ingram and Hunt and West Kerr, and the ISDs are all a part of these working groups. And as they continue to work and identify needs within the community, part of the long-term recovery is to have our funding coordinating group, which will hear those requests, whether it be help to vet those requests and help to find funding sources. And I will certainly reach out to Mark, and he probably will as too, to reach out to EIC to get a member of EIC to be a part of that group, so that you can hear those projects and we can help to pinpoint those projects, whether it be, as Michael mentioned, whether it be HUD, CBDG grants, whether it be federal, whether it be state, whatever it might be, that all of the funding opportunities we have get to look at all these project needs within the community, whether it be city, county, even individual unmet needs, whether it be public assistance and public infrastructure, just a whole slew of projects. Our goal is to bring all those up through from the 16 working groups through the 9-member board group to hear about those needs and then respond to those. Of those 16, obviously, 2, we have an unmet needs, which is focusing on individual assessment needs that we're currently have across the county. We also have a housing construction committee that is run by Mr. John Dunn, and that housing construction committee is helping and working in conjunction with the Community Foundation and other volunteer organizations that are constructing homes within Kerr County to help facilitate that funding set aside through the Community Foundation to help rebuild homes. On our heads-up display on our dashboard right now, the individual needs and the home construction is our priority, moving into mental and well-being and moving into the business recovery. Within the 16 working groups, we have an economic development group, which is led by Kelly Hagemeyer, and we have a business recovery and construction working group that is working on business recovery throughout the entire county as well, looking at the initial needs right now of business and how we get our businesses that were affected and indirectly affected back on their feet and sustainable, and hoping to keep that sales tax revenue generation, as Beck alluded to, back to our norm and greater than where we were. And to that recovery group the business recovery group and construction will also be helping to find funding ways to rebuild some of these business centers that were destroyed by the flood, help them get rebuilt. That is being led by Chris Hughes out of the Ingram area, and he has all of these working groups. We have amongst the 16 close to now about 80 participants within these 60 working groups, and they are actively, the river group is extremely active, along with the flood warning system that is on our dashboard as well too, as one of the priorities set by not only local leadership but by state and federal leadership to enact a flood warning system that is being led by Tara Bushno and UGRA, along with the city and the county and the emergency services operations and the volunteer fire department. Met last week, gave an update on where they are with the flood warning system for Kerr County. And that's kind of an overview on the long-term recovery group. And we have been doing a lot of the, I don't want to say behind the scenes, but we've been actively working in long-term recovery and doing it in a way in which we respect the fact that search and rescue is still going on. Traditionally, after a disaster, once search and rescue has ended, then you go into your long-term recovery plans. We have been moving in that direction since about the middle of July, and we have recently received an offer from one of our founding community businesses here to help us go out and hire a PR firm and a public information officer as well, which will be vetted through a communications group that we have to do that hiring, and the funding will be coming from that foundation to help us fund that, which will be putting the long-term recovery group's goals and mission all in perspective to do a launch along with and beside the governor's office into our our official long-term recovery. So that I'm expecting, I say the word soon often. Soon can be defined as one may deem it, but soon we will have all that up and running and operating, and we'll be having your town hall meetings and get the public up to date with actually what's going on under the long-term recovery. Focusing back on the business, the data impact survey, we initially had a survey impact that went out the week after July 4th, which to memory was either the 7th, 8th, or 9th of July. We initially took in approximately 178 in the survey, and after duplicates, I believe it was down to 148, and currently have taken other surveys hosted from the eastern Kerr County to far western Kerr County. That survey is up to about 300 in the business community. Of that 300, we had a resurvey sample went out, which we received 75 responses from the original 148 surveys that went out to find out how they are post-disaster. And those numbers that came back were interesting to say the least. We still have a lot of businesses that are struggling. We are looking at finding ways with the offering of our local banking community to help. Like in the individual assistance need, you have caseworkers. The Community Foundation has funded an organization, Endeavors, that is going to bring, I believe, 20 caseworkers in to help assist the on-the-ground community, friends and neighbors and churches, caseworkers, to help these individuals find the pathways to all of the resources that they need available to get them back on their feet. We are looking at modeling that the same way under the business side. When we did the survey, one of the interesting, I believe, of the 75, 69% of those surveyed back and have requested a case manager for their business needs, just like we're providing for the individuals. So we will be seeking funding to partner with one of our local VOADs, which will come before the 9-member board, the board of directors for the long-term recovery group, to help identify funding for that group. And that group is more business structured as well. They're one of the largest in the U.S. They've actually been in town with their own resources, helping out with building materials, tool replacement, and between $5,000 and $15,000 worth of funding to individual businesses that were in need. We're looking at partnering with them to do long-term recovery on the business side, which means we will then be able to assign caseworkers through them to work along with our banking community, who has offered to be caseworkers for the local businesses that are in need. They will all split those businesses up. Some are their existing customers, some of which they will turn into customers, and we will have a better idea of exactly what their financial needs are moving forward as we then go to our funding coordination group to find out what funds are available best suited. We also found out today that on June 4th, the US EDA, which is the U.S. Economic Development Agency, has some funding available that we can also apply for to help get assistance into Kerr County for economic development needs. But as we sit right now, again, we are still collecting a lot of survey data. A lot of different organizations are, so we're entering to a lot of mutual shared agreements so that we can share that information and continue to compile it in as centralized locations as we possibly can, so we can mine that data and best find out how we can serve the community, both in the individual needs under long-term recovery as well as the business. I'll open it up to any questions.
Amazing amount of work.
It's amazing the amount of people and resources that have come to us. It's almost a daily basis that we get contacted by somebody somewhere, either offering their professional services, right down to an organization that offered us some financial help once we get and identify all the I mean, it is amazing. It's amazing the team that is behind the long-term recovery. They are just doing amazing work, meeting. And everybody has a lot of meetings, but we're finally starting to get a lot of traction in these meetings. And now that we have the board of directors, our next meeting is tomorrow, and we're already seeing the fruits of the labor, that we're going to have some of those needs bubble up through the organization and go find funding that are immediate needs. And as Michael was alluding to, even for river recovery, we're going to look at a couple of those requests for needs and funding, and hopefully go find some funding to help those projects along.
One more question.
Go ahead.
On Mega Creek, do you have any idea of when they might actually start manufacturing, when we're talking about sales tax?
So we did have an initial conversation towards March, April, and May of 2025, and the hopes was to have a groundbreaking by first or second quarter of 26. That is all pending on the TCEQ's timeline back in March, April, May, and June, getting through the state of Texas and getting through that permitting process to have the public hearings before December of 2025, which would give them a better idea of a start date. And as of yet, we don't have that firm commitment from TCEQ as to the permitting process. Hope to have a better idea at the end of October, because we would look to host those, or Mega Creek would look to be hosting those public hearings prior to December, so that they could come back to us and give us a better timeline of a groundbreaking.
Have they given us any kind of an idea as to how long it take them to get up and going after they got the okay?
I can tell you old data was about a year and a half, and that's old data from groundbreaking time because, and I will go back to that some of that year and a half from groundbreaking, I believe was supposed to be, oh goodness, it may have been second, third quarter of 24, and it is what my memory says. And some of that year and a half after that groundbreaking had to do with the timing of the equipment being made in Germany. They had a 2-year lead time on that, which was factored into their year and a half after opening in 24. So I would assume that equipment is maybe moved a little further along, and that period is shortened, assuming, tariffs change things and every. So I feel more comfortable once we get a little better idea and they have those permits in hand. I think they can give us a better idea as to when they would be actually open and generating sales.
You had mentioned some sort of a position or something for an EIC member. Can you tell me a little bit more about what that is, what that would involve?
So again, we had our conversation today with Mark Hoffler to get a better idea of his role and what the funding coordination working group would do. And basically, it's to go out and organize and wrangle all different types of funding sources. Now, that's not something Mark can do alone, right? It's a heavy task because a lot of it's federal and state, in constant communication with the judge and the mayor about different opportunities for different flood warning systems and where that's money is coming from. So we do have William Whitson and Kim Faust, which are consultants, which are hired through Kerr EDC through a foundation that has donated their services to us. We have William for a year and we have Kim for 9 months. She'll be coming on board in October, and their specialty is navigating that state and federal funding. So that'll be a part of that funding coordination. The other part of the funding coordination would be any other private funds that we have available, any other foundations that have an interest in helping fund the long-term recovery, and any other associations or organizations that have money that want to help fund. It's kind of organize all the funding for long-term recovery. And there, Mark would go out and help with his team to kind of organize that. So when we all come up with our projects or we all come up with our ideas, we have multiple funding sources potentially outlined that may fit different criteria. My opinion is that EIC would want a seat at that table to find out what type of projects are coming through and what type of funding could be available, or an area in which the EIC decides they want to assist in would have that opportunity.
So I don't know if it would be appropriate to that. I know that Ryan was very interested in being on our KEDC, on the KEDC board from EIC. Is it appropriate to make a motion that he be approved to be on this other board that Todd is referencing?
So it's all theoretical at this point, so I would say maybe let them finalize what their plans are and then come back to the board next month and
Okay.
y'all can talk about it. Is that right?
Great. Yeah.
You're still kind of formulating what that,
As of this morning at 8:30.
yeah.
Yeah.
But that's about how all our plans are sometimes.
Any other questions?
Anybody else? Thank you, Todd, so
Thank you.
much.
And thank you all to last month's funding. Appreciate the Kerr EDC funding agreement. I think we're going to come back. We'll be back at the next meeting for a public hearing on that funding, and then.
Our annual funding agreement.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're at 4C, our Kerrville Economic Improvement Corporation project status report from Michael.
And thank you. I had a video that I was going to show you from TDEM, from the Texas Department of Emergency Management, on the previous one, but I'll just tell you. So they were talking about having 1 million yards of cubic debris, and like, how do you quantify it? In the paper, I think it done a job of like 6 feet high, this many football fields, and they had 617,000 full-size pickup trucks. That's how much debris, right? And then I was like, well, that doesn't really help. And there was one that was a cubic yard of debris. If you took it and stacked it all the way up to the International Space Station and then brought it all the way back down, that would be 1 million cubic yards of debris. So anyway, for those of you that had a chance to head out to the golf course for the ribbon cutting, thank you. I know that was kind of in the middle of the day. And if you weren't able to make it, I hope you had a chance to go by at some point and take a look. Some of you, I think, may have already gone out to play.
Played it. It was
Good
great.
job. Well
Yeah,
done.
it was great.
Yeah. The greens still need a little bit of work. We had, again, we were hoping for a 120-day growing window, and when the hailstorm hit us, that pushed us back, and then they had a little weed infestation in Kingsville where they were growing, and so it kept getting pushed back, and I kept getting more and more nervous because I can do a lot, but I can't make grass grow. And that's a hard and fast date. So we ended up with about 90 days. And so everybody, by all accounts, they say, give it another 30 days. It's good to play. Still infinitely better than it was prior to the renovation happening. But to get in really, really good shape, another 30 days, keep rolling it, keep sanding it. They call it top dressing. You just put sand on top of it and then you roll it. And that grass grows into those, if there's any wavy areas. That's kind of how you mitigate that. So
It was sandy, but the putts rolled pretty true. It played well, really.
I can't help you with your scores.
There's no help for that.
Did you have a good response from the tournament participants?
Fantastic response with the tournaments. It was very positive all throughout, and they're really excited about the future. Very happy. That's what I got from the pro for Bobby Morris out there. So it's looking good. The pool has demoed the building, so if you go out there, there is no building no more. It's just the foundation. So pool is same as going on for the pool, which kind of hard to see if you're not, right there. But you would notice that there is a building gone. So that project took longer for us to get propped up, and so I'm very glad to see that that's moving along. We're going to push very hard to make sure that we are open close to that Memorial Day weekend. I want to be open on Memorial Day weekend. I can't promise that. The contractors are local. They also, they're going to push hard too. They want that thing. They want it for the community. And so we will keep pushing hard on that project.
Is the design that's 100% complete?
Oh yeah, we're done. It's and contractor selected. Notice to proceed's all there. I mean, yeah, they did the demo. They have been working for a while now. We just hadn't had a chance to kind of talk about it. But if you've been by, there's no building out there anymore, just a slab. The theater project is complete at this point. They had an opening event where Amy Grant came to town last Monday. And so the theater themselves, Playhouse 2000, they have a few projects internally that they're going to do. They're going to renovate some of the bathroom. They're going to renovate both of the bathrooms. They're going to do those kind of in alternating weeks, is what it looks like from Jeffrey. We still have a few coordinating things that we're working through with them, but by and large, it sounds like everybody's happy with it. It's not one of those ones that's real flashy, like, oh, did you see our new HVAC unit?
Yeah.
But for those folks that are going to be there in the summer and in the winter, it's not going to be, you're not going to be worried that you're going to have good air conditioning. So staff from our end are very keen on reestablishing the relationships with Playhouse 2000 to make sure that we all have really constant communication about any issues that crop up. Because one of the problems that you have is sometimes those conversations get lost in the shuffle, and little things become big things real fast. So I don't want y'all to get asked to fund a $3 million roof again. And so we're on our way. And then again, we talked about Guadalupe Park. Plans for Granger McDonald were at 90%, which is a stone's throw away from 100%. There shouldn't be many, if any, issues with those plan sets. So hopefully those go straight from our 90% review to stamped at 100%. And we should be ready to proceed with putting it out to bid for construction. And with that, I'll turn it over to any questions. I know normally I've got the presentation, but we hit you with a lot today.
So the Heart of the Hills,
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
So that says it's gonna be finished maybe in October, so it should be pretty close, or they're already working on their internal, displays and stuff like that?
We will turn over the keys to them once, so no, they're not in there, they're not doing anything. It's still fully in the hands of the contractors. Substantial completion is slated for October 31st. We will surely have a punch list for them. We've had it for every other project. This will be no different. So I would imagine sometime in the middle of November, we would turn the keys over to the HHHC, and then they would begin their process of moving in, and I'm not sure if they've selected their finishes at this point, but they won't be in there until, I would say, about the middle of November. Is that right?
Plan to do an opening in April, I believe.
April opening, so yeah, so about a
March or
6-month,
Right.
get everything situated.
I saw that there was still $1 million, in that was approved in that sales tax bond has not been paid out to them.
For the HHHC, yeah, we still have bills to pay, so we'll have retainage that we keep on each of the projects, so there'll be retainage for that. They still are working the elevator is not fully complete at this point, so there's still a substantial amount of work to get done. They are painting, so a lot of that money it'll be done mostly by the time we meet next month. But there'll still be a couple of weeks left in October for final work. Yeah, so they still have 6 more weeks. That last 6 weeks is I can tell you from the public safety facility, the last 10% is well, it's the hardest 10%,
Yeah.
for sure. But a lot gets done in that last few weeks. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention HHHC.
Anybody else have anything else they want to ask about? Are you good?
No more pink building over there. They have
Painted white,
Faded
well,
Or is that
that's
the
the primer for it, and then the color selection is
It's a whitish.
it's whitish. That's the official term, is what I'm told. And with that,
Thank
that's all
you.
I have.
Thank you, Michael. And so we are now at 4D, which is our August 2025 monthly financial report presented by Trina.
Good afternoon. I hope y'all are well. Okay, so looking good through August. First slide here is your statement activities for the bond funds, and we're looking at the yellow column. So $53,890 earned in your tax pool bond fund account. We have no more short-term investments tied up for your bond funds at the moment. And your next section down are the expenses for the projects. So it looks like we only paid out 2 projects this month, and that was the golf course and the Callow Theater. So total expenditures of $759,000. That basically leaves $12.1 million left in the bond funds for the projects. And then on your interest earnings minus your arbitrage expectation, looks like $1.3 million in earnings. Alrighty. And then your statement of activities for your operational funds. So sales tax has been performing pretty well. We're right on track with budget. August sales tax was $419,023. That brings you up to $4.645 million for the year. So, right on budget. August was 3.3% over last August, so it's been climbing a little bit month over month. I don't have any notable changes if there was large prior period or payments or anything, but we'll have that report. It just came in Friday, so we haven't quite dissected that all. Sales tax for September came in last week. That was $463,000, and that was another 2% increase. So it's climbing. And I know you've asked about maybe the flood expectations with the sales tax dollars, and that was the September payment. So we'll see the differences on some of those big box stores or Lowe's, Home Depot. See what those did. Your next revenue down is the interest income, $21,000 for the month in your tax pool account and some of your short-term investments you're holding. And then your expenditures for the month, we did have financial disclosure fees with our financial advisor, $3,500 for the month, and then City of Kerrville contract for $17,000, and then your monthly debt service of $213,000. And then we did have a request from Schreiner University on their contract for the talent and workforce development. That was their first year payment on that, $411,000. And then we had the athletic facility. They're rolling into their second year because it started like May timeframe. So we put out the second year payment for them for $272,000. So change in net position of negative $477,000 for the month of August. All right, on to the cash flow. So 2 months left in the year here, August and September. Ending cash balance is $5.35 million. And do keep in mind you have $2 million tied up in investments, so really $7.3 million there. And then your fiscal year 26 projections there to the right. We do have Lennar. We're expecting in the new year, in fiscal year 26, to release that. So that's going to be a big payment, $2 million going out. So you'll see a change in your cash balance at that time. Oops, that goes quick. Okay, and the financial analysis. Top chart is just your sales tax comparisons year over year and budget to actuals. And then bottom chart is your cash and investment balances. The tax pool yield at this month is 4.42%, which is just a 1 basis point reduction in last month. So it's still moving quite slowly. And chart there to the right is just your remaining project commitments on the books for the moment. And that is all I have for August.
If the Fed lowers the rate, what does that do to our rates?
So right now, for whatever you are holding onto right now, you've purchased, those are locked in. But as far as your tax pool monies, you're just gonna earn less on your cash balance available in the bank account.
Does it equal out to about what they make the change as?
They're usually ahead of the game. You'll see the pools move a little bit quicker than the market. So whatever they do first is what the market's going to shift to, the short-term side, the commercial paper or home loans, mortgage-backed loans, and things of that nature.
And is that why we've stayed out of short-term? That was been so unstable?
Not necessarily, but just trying to watch your cash just because of all the situations in locally right now, as well as your big projects that you do have on the books. We're not sure when they're going to be ready to make that request, so we just kind of want to stay liquid as much as possible. But as far as you had Granger McDonald, they're kind of moving slower than we expected, so that's $2 million just sitting there idle. We'll probably reinvest that. I just wanted to kind of see the timeline of when they're going to need it or when we're going to move forward. And I'm sure there's a delay due to the flood now, so we'll probably reinvest that pretty soon. But as far as your operational stuff, I mean, we have $2 million of your ops right now tied up, and I kind of think that's probably best just for y'all to stay. That's the max for the moment. But if you choose to do something more, we'll look at it and see where we have to give.
Anybody else have any other questions, Trina? I did want to say, it's amazing how well y'all did on your projections, like for the sales tax. I mean, you're less than 0.5%.
It was actually a surprise to us, but yes, it
Did a great
worked
job.
out. We drew down. we went 3% reduction on sales tax this year, and it's landing right where we're at. So I think the 0.5% increase next year is gonna put us in a better position to make that, as well as just see what the market's gonna do, see what the sales in the community do.
It's scary how accurate they are.
Very good.
Just a lot of analysis.
It's a good job.
Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, thank you for that.
Thank you.
I don't believe executive session is called for unless anyone really wanted to go have a little conversation. Alrighty, so we didn't have any action items in our executive session. Are there any items for our future agendas that we want to include? Make sure that get on there. Just kind of keep that conversation alive about how we can best be part of the recovery process.
Have that as kind of a separate item, and we'll keep talking with KEDC about ways that EIC could possibly participate.
And then if there is a place for one of our members to include that. Alrighty. So it's 5:05, and so this meeting is adjourned.